It looks like we have. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Thompson and Wetlands Commission February meeting. The date is February 14th, 2023. The meeting is being conducted via Zoom, a platform that utilizes the internet, and a couple of basic rules. If citizens want to speak, there's two sections in the agenda that allow for that in the beginning and in the end. Please be polite and clear in speaking so that we can hear you. If you have something to submit, if you're a petitioner or someone has to speak on behalf of someone else, and you haven't submitted the documents, please show them to the camera so that the camera is able to, we can see what you're talking about, and then digitally transfer those to Marla at the Inland Wetlands office so that we have a permanent record. Those are the basic highlights. I think today we've all been through Zoom about 3 years worth, and I think we're pretty familiar with it. So without further ado, I'm calling this meeting to order at time of 7:02. There are no alternates. As far as prior meetings, the meeting of January 10th, any comments by the commissioners? Actually, I should have, let me step back if I may. Let me have a roll call. So Commissioner Morano.
Present.
Commissioner Obert. I see Commissioner Obert's there. Is your mic available? We still can't hear you. Commissioner Chapin?
Present.
Okay. Well, we can see Commissioner Obert. He apparently is not able to speak. And again, myself, Commissioner O'Neill, and the chair of the Inland Wetlands Commission. So we do have a quorum. Hopefully, Commissioner Obert, you can dial in maybe with your cell phone per the instructions that we have on the agenda. As far as the prior meeting, any changes, commissioners?
I didn't see any.
No, me either.
Hearing none, we'll let them stand as read. Citizens' comments on agenda items. This is your first opportunity. You can comment on items that are on the agenda that are posted. All right, I hear none. You will have another opportunity towards the end of the meeting to make comments as well. Moving on to the next item, E, applications, old applications. WAA 22029, Gary Rawson, Zero Lodge Road at Sumter's Map 141, Block 17, Lot 184R. Construct a new single-family home in a 100-foot upland review area for aquatic reservoir. Stamped received on 11/16/22, awaiting NDDH approval. Marla, do we have any progress on this?
No, there has been no change on this. And given these applications came in before the zoning regulations changed, they don't have to go to the ZBA for a variance because they were pre-existing lots.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen so we can sort of follow the agenda. Can everyone see that? Or
Yes.
I can see it.
all right. Here's the prior meeting. Let me just scan through it quickly. This way we can all be looking at the same information. Next item. It's the same, seems like the same proximate area, right? It's
Yes,
WA 22030, Gary Rawson, Zero Lodge Point Road, Assessors Map 141, Block 17, Lot 184I. Construct a new single-family home in the 100-foot upland review area for aquatic reservoir. Stamped received on 11/16/22, awaiting NDDH approval. This is the second parcel.
Yes, this is the one on Logie Point Road near its intersection with Logie Road. And again, this was a pre-existing lot and the zoning application was made before the zoning regs changed. So there's no requirements for a zoning board of appeals for the lot size.
Okay, so and we're waiting for, there's no further action because the approval hasn't come through.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the next, we just get past this here. New applications, WAA 23001. Hannah Youssef, 274 Riverside Drive, Assessors Map 87, Block 95, Lot 39. Construct a 13-foot by 50-foot concrete pad for a refrigeration freezer unit stamped received on 1/19/23, revised 2/1/2023, to include construction of 2 second floor decks, a 50 by 13 foot over proposed concrete slab and an 18 foot by 36 along the entire width of the south side of the building under review. Any updates on this, Marla?
So George, if you go to page 18 of the Zoom documents, there's a plan view, and Mr. Joseph has put on that plan in blue ink, the 18.
Yeah, there you are. I see it.
Where the proposed, the deck in the rear would be over the proposed concrete pad that he wanted to install for potential freezing units and refrigeration units that he wanted to use in association with the building. He's had to change his plans because he did not receive.
Dr. Berg's suggestions.
I'm sorry.
Roberta, you need to put your,
Yeah, please mute.
you
if
need to be
you're,
on mute.
Okay, I think we're set.
Okay, so he first came in for the concrete slab in the back because he had to change his plans because the cannabis shop didn't win in the lottery. So he's trying to find another use for the building. And he wants to put in the ability to store foods in refrigeration units in the back. He's outside of the 100-year floodplain. And after he's supplied that, he came in and decided he wanted to put in some second floor decks. One deck would be on the south side of the building, which is, there was historically a deck on the ground floor, but he wants to put one on the second floor. And then he also wants to put a deck over top of the concrete pad that he was going to store the refrigeration units. If you scroll down to page 19 of the Zoom documents, this shows a frontal view of the building and a rear view of the building. The frontal view is listed as elevation 1, and it would be on the left side of the structure that you see from the front of the building, where he'd have the second floor deck that would run the entire south length of the building. And in the back, which is listed as elevation 2, you can see that there's a stairs coming down off of a second floor door. He has had to change the plans. That's where he would have the concrete pad would be underneath going up to that door almost. But he was required by the building or the fire marshal to add a second door at the north end of the building. And his decks that he wants to put in, he didn't identify where the stairs would go. So the building office is requiring him to go back to his architect to come in with revised drawings. So this application is on hold pending receipt of revised drawings showing the actual location of the second floor decks and the stairs. And I believe he will be or has applied for a zoning permit or will be applying for a zoning permit for whatever the business is that he wants to do in that building. So right now that's on hold pending receipt of revised drawings to match what he has indicated in writing.
Thanks for the update. Commissioners, any questions for our inland wetlands agent regarding the pending application? No, okay, I don't hear any. Just a reminder, if you're not speaking, please try to put your mic on hold so that we can unmute so we're able to not have any interruptions. On to the next item, new applications, IWA 23002, Jason Lavalley, 0 Azard Road, Census Map 67, Block 53, Lots 1H and 1G, construct multifamily dwellings in 5 phases within upland review area with drainage discharging 2 wetlands watercourses. Stamped received on 2/7/2023. Statutory receipt date is 2/14/2023.
Marla Butt speaking. This is an individual permit application. And Janet Blanchette is here to explain the initial application. And she would do better than me, I guess is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
And I will have some comments after she speaks.
Thank you, Marla. Ms. Blanchette, can you introduce your firm and yourself, and please take the mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Janet Blanchette with J&D Civil Engineers. working with and representing Jason LaValle of LaValle Construction. He wants to construct a multifamily housing project at the property. And so perhaps within your Zoom documents, if you wouldn't mind advancing to the set of plans, that would probably help everybody.
It starts on page 34, George.
Okay, I know there's a lot of them here. Hold on, give me a second. All right,
So this is a set of project plans. I would say just go right ahead to the next page, if you don't mind.
okay. How's that?
Perfect. So
Okay.
this property is, it's actually 2 lots at the intersection of Riverside Drive and Azid Road. So north is pointing to the left on this picture. Since it is on a state road, I'm sure most of you are familiar with this site. It just is kind of a brush covered hill. So it's about 12 acres between the 2 lots. And he wants to develop about 6 of them with this, multifamily 2-bedroom townhouses. You can see the wetland right like in the middle of the screen. Thank you. And so that wetland system was created by gravel excavation years ago. There is well-drained soil in the area. And over time, vernal pools were in existence in those wetlands in 2004. They may or probably could exist today. And a few weeks ago, I met with Marla and we discussed, the ramifications potentially. And so basically, we made the decision, the developer and I, that we were going to design the stormwater drainage system on the assumption that those are active vernal pools. So there's not any drainage whatsoever from the site that are going to discharge, a point discharge into the wetlands or those vernal pools. So we can probably see that better if we advance on to a couple sheets.
Page 39, George.
Okay, it's 39. The topographical,
Yes, so on this sheet, this is a blow up with the topography. On the left-hand side is the wetlands, most of it. And so this project will be constructed in phases. It's a very big project for our area. And so it's just not the type of thing that is going to happen quickly. It's probably going to be over 5 or maybe even 10 years. So it's designed to be built in phases, and with each starting from the lowest end, working up the hill, so that the infrastructure, the sewer, the drainage and everything can be built incrementally in like a logical, smart fashion. So phase 1 is just the first 2 buildings right where his pen is.
right here.
Yes, and that project, that phase doesn't involve any work even within the upland review area, because it's going to discharge to a stormwater basin adjacent to Route 12 outside the upland review area. So the basin adjacent to the wetlands will be constructed in the next phase, and then subsequent, as the road gets developed, moving up the hill and different structures are installed, everything will discharge to that phase 2 stormwater basin, which is directly south of the wetlands. Exactly, that's exactly where it is. And that area was it's like a gravel turnaround. It's kind of overgrown now. And so that area, even though it's in the wetland buffer, has been highly disturbed. People drove in there years ago. I don't think they can drive really in there now because of the tree growth. People have driven in there. They put tires in the wetlands and in the vernal pools. There's evidence of some mattresses that people, back in the day dumped off out in the woods. So where even this work is inside the upland review area, but it is in a highly disturbed area. And so essentially there's going to be a berm that separates the wetlands from the stormwater basin. And when it discharges, it's not, it's going to overflow out towards the state road. Yeah, that part up there is a sediment forebay, and right there, exactly where you're drawing,
Right.
is the outfall.
Is the
and
berm here?
Yes,
Okay. It's like one side here and then another side
Right.
here.
so I really encourage I mean, I know Marla's just starting the review. This application has just been received, but I would really encourage everybody on the commission to make a site visit and view this. It's really easy to walk into because there's like a paved apron that you can fit a couple parking spaces right on the site that are only, a couple 100 feet away from this area. And I think it's really worth it to go and see the way it's functioning, the way it looks, how it drains out towards the state highway. We did design this project so that it does treat the water quality volume required in the stormwater guidelines. There's like every single discharge is into a basin for settling and filtration. I mean, it's a big project. I could talk a long time about it, but I think I'll answer questions and try to, so.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Blanchett. Commissioners,
George?
I'm sorry. Yes?
George,
Marla?
I have some initial comments to make.
Sure, please.
If you could go to page 35 of the Zoom documents, please.
Certainly. Give me a
That's
minute
the
here.
vicinity plan and index map. So the commission will see that there's extensive conservation areas around this proposal. And one of the items in the proposal is to include a walking trail from the airline trail parking lot that was originally built by Mr. LaValle probably about 12 years ago, 10 years ago, I think, or so. That was part of when he subdivided the land. First, when I came involved in town back in 2010, 2011. So because there's so much conservation easement area around it, as well as a potential proposal for work in the conservation easement, I have contacted Dan Malo, the conservation officer, and asked him to bring this before the Conservation Commission for their input and comment to the Wetlands Commission regarding any activities that might be affecting their conservation easement area. Whether or not it's in the upland review area or not, I'm not sure. But I wanted them to have a chance to weigh in on whatever concerns they might have. The second thing is I did have a chance to take a look at you'll note that in the application, Margaret Washburn was the soil scientist who did the delineation in 2004. That's an 18-year-old delineation. And I happened to speak to Margaret today for other reasons. And I asked her about this. She didn't have a whole lot of recollection. She did recall it. It was done for somebody else other than Jason. It was a prior property owner. But she said that in their town in Brooklyn, where she is the wetlands agent, they usually require the reflagging if you're beyond 15 years. But I don't think that's necessary in this case. I did walk the wetlands delineation with Janet, or walk and viewed the wetlands. And I think because there's been no change in the upper watershed that would drain to this area, no development that would appear to have had any effect, I don't see a reason why that would have to be redelineated. However, I am concerned that Margaret is a soil scientist. She's not a herpetologist. And her comments about the vernal pool were not conclusive. And the time of year to study amphibious activities, breeding activities, would be starting soon. So one of the things that I think the commission should be asking for on this application is an evaluation by a herpetologist as to whether or not this is in fact a vernal pool or not. Part of that reasoning is even though there's no point source discharge to the wetlands proposed, there is lawns that will be draining towards it. And I wanted to make sure that if there was a true vernal pool, that we weren't seeing the introduction of nutrients coming into it. If it's not a true vernal pool, which could be determined by evaluation this spring, then I wouldn't be worrying about that issue. So those are the couple of the things that initially caught my interest to figure out, you know, where the commission might want to go with this. I do recommend the commission do a site walk on whatever day would be convenient for them. I think it would be of value to walk through this property and see what it looks like. When Janet and I went out and looked at the wetland system, we'd had a heavy rain the night before, very heavy rain, and there was actually water discharging from the wetland system down towards Route 12, going across that asphalt pad and draining into Route 12 and into the catch basin. Janet had been there in the fall and had not seen, if you correct me if I'm wrong, Janet, had not seen any evidence of leaf movement from water discharge from that site before. So this is the first time that she has seen that there had been actual discharge from the system into and towards Route 12. I have some videos and some photographs that I can share with the commission at its next meeting if you wish. But that's kind of where my recommendation is that you do a site walk and decide how you want to handle this application at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Marla. I recognize that Commissioner Obert, you've successfully been able to access the Zoom document. We can't hear you.
So many computers here. Excuse me. I'm not as high tech as I look. Yes, I agree. I want a site walk on that. My only concern was the 4 units that was closest to the vernal pool. I want to see if that really is an active pool. So I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, we can see I've got one up. Any other questions, Commissioner Obert?
No. Sorry,
No,
it took me so long to get the audio.
No worries. Better late than never, and you know, we do have these challenges. Commissioner Chapin or Morano, questions for Ms. Blanchette or our inland wetlands agent on this map? This is the initial receipt of this proposal. Okay. Hearing none, I guess we'll talk about maybe setting up a potential site walk. I think I'd like to take a closer look. I know I've driven by here, and I think when Sandra and I first moved to town, we looked at some property just up the street from these guys. All right. Any other comments, Marla? Otherwise, we'll move on. Or does anyone else want to comment?
Timing for a site walk. Do you want to do it on a Saturday? It'll have to be a special meeting, so it'll have to have an agenda posted for a special meeting, and that would only be if I have more than one commissioner showing up. So I don't want to go through the effort of doing a special meeting unless I can get a consensus as to what a date might be acceptable for a site walk.
Is there a timeline? Has this already been stamped received? So we've got the clock running?
Yes.
The clock starts running tonight,
Okay.
because you have 65 days from today's date to either render a decision or hold a public hearing on the application. So you have almost, 2 more meetings before you actually, if you don't hold a public hearing, you would only have 2 more meetings to make a decision. If you want additional information, getting the information from a herpetologist is probably going to take more than a couple of months, because the breeding season usually starts the end of March, the beginning of April, and so I would not expect there to be any kind of results until sometime April or the beginning of May. So, but you need to, I think you should see it first, so that could make you just, give you a decision as to whether you decided you felt it was necessary to ask for additional information, other information, whether you wanted to have somebody else take a look at the hydraulics, because it is a little complicated. And or whether or not you need to be concerned about effects to that wetland system. Now, this project has a proposal for 3 wells. The first well is associated with phase 1, and that would just be a regular well because they don't exceed the number of customers to make it a community well. But once they go into another phase, they have to build another well. And as they continue to build, they will build a 3rd well. By the time they add the 2nd well, they're now into a community well system, which I'm not real familiar with the health department's regulations on that. But those wells will be pulling water off the ground, off the water table, and then sending it through the wastewater treatment system, the wastewater lines to the town's wastewater treatment system, the sewer. So there'll be a net loss of, but there's a lot of gravel in this area, and I don't know if there's going to be any effect from that, from the wells sucking off water from the water table, whether or not that would affect that wetland or water course. I'm not sure whether that's a concern of the commission or not, but I think once you see the site and walk it a little bit and see where the wells might be, where the houses might be, where the yards might be, you might have a better sense of whether or not you should have a concern or not.
Okay. So I think,
So
I don't know if we're ready to, well, I don't know if we can come up with a day now, but we should certainly see if coordinate with the commissioners if who is interested in, by email,
Okay.
and perhaps to come up with a time then, rather than doing it on the fly. All
Okay.
right. Thank you.
Okay.
Last quick question. Are the wetlands flagged? I heard Marla saying something about it was a long time ago. So if I went out there now,
No.
would I be able to spot them?
It's pretty clear because there's standing water
Okay.
in a large portion of it, but there are no flags. In order to have flags now, you'd have to have it reflagged.
There's a couple little remnants of blue, but it's not fully flagged.
Okay.
Well, I'll take a look and see if I can get enough answers without, but I do want to see more information on this. And I would like to have it completed by our next meeting so the project could move forward if there's no other problems.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Obert.
Thank you.
Any other comments by other commissioners? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Let's see. Past all this.
You got to go a long ways down, George, because
Looks like
I've included all the hydraulics.
Okay, well, I can click pretty quick. Oh, you've got every single page here too. That's right. I looked at this earlier.
Yeah, it's
Let me
pretty
just
long.
get through it. I didn't. I should have marked the pages, but as much as
You
on
want to
the,
go to page 111.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, applications received after agenda was published. There are none.
Correct.
Agenda permit extensions and changes, none.
Correct.
Let's move on to the violations. And here we have notice of permit violation, VIOL 21036, permit IWA 20022, Mark Bear, 1227 Thompson Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 10. Grades not as authorized in modified plan approved by the Commission on February 9th, 2021. And we should receive a status on this project.
So I spoke to Mr. Bear today. And he is still in the process of trying to find a builder to finish the work on the site. He's trying to find a new site, what is the term I want to use? Whoever's going to do the work for grading work on the site. The agreement has been in the past that no certificate of approval would be issued by the building office until the Wetlands Commission received an as-built drawing once the grading work and the construction work was completed to show that the conditions are acceptable. Currently, I've received no calls from any of the residents around the lake indicating that there's been a problem coming from the site, any erosion or sediment control problems. So at this point, it is just on hold. One of the things that I will be looking into is when is the expiration date for his permit, which will be probably a couple more years from now because he'll have 5 years with which to complete it.
All right, thank you, Marla, for that update. Commissioners, any questions of Marla? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the next violation. It's notice of a violation VIOL 22031, Douglas and Roberta Gray, 0 New Road, Assessors Map 154, Block 3, Lot 2J. Watercourse alternative causing flooding, issued 11/23/22. Status.
So as you recall from last meeting, I had spoken with Mr. Calabro and his engineer, Norm Tybo, and they were given 45 days to submit the results of their investigation to see if they can get the grades, if the grades are adequate enough to have the water flowing down along the driveway, Mr. Calabro's driveway, as opposed to flowing through the Gray's property. In addition, they would be coming in with an as-built for the under drain for the septic system that's in the upland review area, as well as possible work at the top of the hill to the south of his septic system to ensure that water that flows out of the Gray's property and into the neighboring property and then into Mr. Calabro's property can never breach into Mr. Calabro's yard area. So at this juncture, I talked to Norm Tybo today. And he said that they were still in the process of doing the evaluation and he expected them to be out on site early next week, finishing up their work. And
Right.
that's where that stands. So until we get the information from Norm Tybo, we won't be able to know whether or not the Gray's violation will have to have any other activity or addressing the conditions on their property. The idea is if there is an alternative that exists keeping all the water on Mr. Calabro's property, that Mr. Calabro's is agreeable to having that happen and come in with an application to authorize that activity and any other activity he has done or is proposing to do.
Okay, thank you for the update. Commissioners, any questions of Marla on this matter? I know we had quite a bit of discussion in prior meetings. Okay, hearing none, move on to the next other business. Update proposed revision subdivision regulations. I know you've been working on that, Marla.
Yep. Okay, so you may or may not know that I had been giving a lot of comments. I've been going through a version that was originally put out. The Planning and Zoning Commission had been working through a subcommittee for subdivision regulations, and they put that on hold pending the completion of the zoning regulations. And the zoning regulations have now been finished and we're moving forward. And I have been going through in a lot of detail regarding the way the subdivision regulations are written. And I came into one issue that I cannot, I need your advice on as a commission. If you go to page 16 of the Zoom documents, you'll see a flow chart that I created. So I use yellow for subdivisions and I've used pretty much blue for wetlands. So according to state statute, when a subdivision is filed that contains when property contains any wetlands on it, whether they're planning to alter it or not, an application has to be filed at the same time with the Wetlands Commission, the Wetlands Agency. The Planning and Zoning Commission moves forward with its process, going through a hearing and rendering a decision, but it cannot render a decision if the land that's subject to the subdivision has wetlands on it. It must wait until the Wetlands Commission has filed a report with the Planning and Zoning Commission. And typically what has happened in the past is the Inland Wetlands Commission has a conceptual subdivision plan application. And I found some problems with that, but I'll talk about that later. But in this particular case, if there are wetlands or watercourses on the property, then the Wetlands Commission processes its application and sends its report or its decision to the Planning and Zoning Commission, who then renders its decision. After the Planning and Zoning Commission renders its decision, there are many other things that could be going on. For example, there could be easement language that they need to have. They may need to have bonds being established and provided for. They may have additional plans that might be required before they endorse any Mylars. Endorsing of them in Mylars is just a signing off. Now, they typically have a signing block on the Mylars. And if you recall, all the subdivisions that have occurred, you even have it in your agenda as a standard item, signing of Mylars, is because in the past, even though it wasn't a requirement of the subdivision regulations, there is a signature block for not only the Planning and Zoning Commission stating that its approval of the plans, but also one for the Inland Wetlands Commission. And the original, in 2008, the subdivision regulations did not contain a requirement for a block for the commission's, Inland Wetlands Commission's signature. So the current draft does not have a signature block required either. And my question to you as a commission, do you want me to advise the Planning and Zoning Commission to add in a signature block for the Inland Wetlands Commission when a subdivision has wetlands or water courses as on the property that's subject to the subdivision? And that's my question to you.
Okay, great. It's an interesting concept. So let me just recap this a bit. We don't currently have this requirement for a signature block for Mylar to sign off on this. However, the way the Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Act is set up, the protocol would be that it should be. It just was an oversight from the initial in the past.
No,
No?
that's incorrect. The Inland Wetlands Act does not say anything about the signing Mylars. Neither does the subdivision statutes either. It was something that was by practice, but not by requirement, not by regulation. It would be something that would have to be established by regulation. Otherwise, it's just by practice.
So the downside of not having one, again, to sort of paraphrase what you said, is that the project could go forward, Inland Wetlands would not have signed off on it, and you could find yourself with a detrimental effect on the wetlands then?
That's correct.
essentially-
When a commission renders a decision on an application, it's before the Planning and Zoning Commission renders its decision.
Right.
So when the Mylars come in, when the applicant submits the Mylars to Planning and Zoning, usually Cindy, the zoning enforcement officer, brings them up to the Wetlands office. And then I take a look at the Mylars that they got, that the Planning and Zoning Commission is looking to endorse. And I compare that with the plans that the Inland Wetlands Commission authorized. I look to see if there's any differences, because there could be differences. The Planning and Zoning Commission could have required some modification of the plans,
Right.
which could have affected wetlands or watercourses, which means then those plans should come back to the Wetlands Commission for modification. But by this having a signing block, it ensures that the plans that are being put on the town's land records are in fact those that the work that's in there, identified in there, is what was authorized by the Inland Wetlands Commission by virtue of the commission signing off on those Mylars. The
Okay,
Inland
so
Wetlands Commission.
So what you're
that is.
saying is although its practice has been to ideally do it, it wasn't a structural component of the approval. And the recommendation is that if they were present, then it would ensure it was, no matter who's running it, no matter what their skill level was or experiences in their particular discipline, right? You would have to go through it. It's a protocol. And your question to us, if I understand it again, is that should the Inland Wetlands Commission recommend or ask that you recommend to the Planning and Zoning Commission that they incorporate this step in order to prevent any detrimental impact on the precious inland wetlands and watercourses in the town of Thompson? Is that captured essentially?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the question for us, commissioners, and I'll ask if anyone has any other questions or comments or observations. I see Commissioner Obert with his
Yes,
next finger up.
I'm
ahead.
wondering, is this something that is corrected only by adding a block for a signature on the zoning subdivision Mylar? Or is it something that they would have to change their procedure as well as changing their form so that it doesn't get slipped in the future?
Where it stands right now is the subdivision regulations are being revised. And I'm providing comment to the planning, to Tira Pen Geesick and to the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding what my suggested changes are.
Yeah.
And this is a significant change. It needs, if you want to ensure that it happens, then it should be in the regulation. It is not in the regulation now. And so somebody could just decide not to put a signature block from the Wetlands Commission, and there's no foul in doing that.
All right, Commissioner Chapin, I think, yes, it should be included, and you should go to them with that.
But I have a point for clarification. Marla, you said in the regulation. Aren't regulations something that come from the state capitol? And we would have
No.
a zoning an ordinance in the town level? Or
No,
bylaws? for our
the statute is silent on the Wetlands Commission signing off on the Mylars.
For
The
this,
statute
for
says that the
subdivisions.
Planning and Zoning Commission can establish the processes through their regulation.
Okay,
So it would have to be in the regulation in order to be a requirement. It's not required anywhere else. It doesn't come from anybody else but the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Okay.
That requirement for the Inland Wetlands Commission to sign off on the Mylars.
Well, I believe it offers enough potential protection for our wetlands that we should encourage that it be included as part of the stuff.
okay.
So I'll make
So-
that motion if we need it.
A recommendation, yeah, I don't know if we just need to give a mandate for her to do it. Also, how about Commissioner Morano, any comments or opportunity to speak on this?
Well, it seems like it's been something we've been doing all along, so maybe if making it official wouldn't be a bad idea.
All right. All right, then, it sounds like we have a consensus on this matter, and I see no harm in it. Seems positive impact, and be cautionary to recommend that, this be incorporated. So please, unless somebody objects on the commission, let's have Marla submit that to the Planning and Zoning regarding this segment here on subdivision Mylars as a step, in the logic being that there is no existing requirement, and that it would be an important safeguard to help future decision process, so that we don't find ourselves skipping a step and unintentionally, adulterating some of the precious wetlands we have in the town. So I think that's all we need. We don't need really a vote. Everyone's weighed in on it, and it's for the public record already. Okay.
Okay, I will do that.
Great. Thank you very much. On to the next item here. Let's see. The business budget 23 and 24.
Okay, back in, on January 18th, I sent all the Inland Wetlands Commission members an email containing the proposed budget. If you recall, I had told the commission that it was my intention to leave town service sometime during the next fiscal year, and that I had wanted to ensure that there was sufficient funds to hire somebody. I felt 15 hours was not enough, that it needed to be 20 hours at least, and that the rate of pay was probably not enough to get anybody of any qualifications, and was recommending $31.50 per hour at 20 hours per week. And that was going to be a significant rise in the budget from this current fiscal year. The total budget with everything included would have come up to about $39,000, just under $40,000. I have a meeting with the Board of Selectmen scheduled for February 22nd in an attempt to review this matter with them, because they're the ones who decide whether they're going to proceed forward with it. And I will keep you informed of any changes or status as that goes along. So that's where we stand on the budget.
Okay. Any questions or comments by commissioners? Hearing none, we'll move on to the second opportunity for citizens to make comments. For those citizens that do wish to comment, we have a small group here. Just unmute and let us identify yourself and make your comments if you have them. name and address if you are so inclined. Don't forget to
Valerie.
unmute. Oh.
Valerie Clark, 105 Elm Road.
Yes, Ms. Clark. Chair recognizes Valerie Clark.
Thank you. I just want to comment on Marla's involvement with the subdivision regulations. And I've been attending those meetings at the P&Z, and I think that her observations have been excellent. And I appreciate all of the work that she's been doing on this. And I also appreciate that the Inland Wetlands Commission is supporting memorializing the process for signing off on the Mylars. I think that was an excellent idea. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Ms. Clark. Any other commissioner, citizens wish to comment? Raise your hand or. All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. So we have budget and expenditures.
Okay, it's Commissioner Chapin. So from July 1st, 2022 through January 26th of 23, we have an available budget left of $12,941.10, and we have used 52.8% of our budget.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Chapin.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions? Any questions for Commissioner Chapin? Hearing none, let's move on to Wetlands Agent.
Okay, so my monthly report is as follows on the updates. Following recent discussions with Tira Penn-Giesek, the Director of Planning, and the First Selectman St. Ange, I have agreed to finish submitting my comments on the draft subdivision regulations by Monday, February 20th, 2023. That's a week from yesterday. That's going to be a real push for me to try to get that done. Because I'm on about page 40 of a 90+ page document. Today, I sent you, that is the Wetlands Commissioner's Excel spreadsheet that I created that identifies the processing costs associated with various types of applications and petitions to assist in developing a revised fee schedule that complies with the Connecticut General Statutes 22A-42A subparagraph E. I would like the commission to consider scheduling an in-person special meeting before the March regular meeting to discuss the Inland Wetlands Commission's regulation amendments and a new fee schedule. I will be in touch with you after tonight's meeting to get a consensus as to when you might be able to do an in-person meeting, special meeting. As it's a little complicated to talk on over Zoom, and I would rather have it in person. I would like feedback on that at this point in time before I continue with my report.
I'm fine with that, Marla. It's Commissioner Chapin.
I'm fine with it also, and I would suggest that we schedule it for after you finish the subdivision comments.
Sounds good.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. George has put up the screen, briefly what I sent to you.
There it is, just for those commissioners that came in at 2:51 p.m. this afternoon, and just so you have it. And see, there's a lot of information here. I'm not going to go through it in detail, just to recognize it. But to answer the question, yes, let's set up a separate evaluation of this proposal. So,
all right, then I'll touch base with you. I'll touch base with you all at the beginning of next week to try to set up a date. All right, then next on January 26th.
Commissioner,
One quick, does that have to go out as a public meeting, or can we do that as an executive session? Do we have
No,
to?
you can't do it as it's not executive, but it is a special meeting and has to be posted, meeting all the FOIA requirements for special meetings.
all right, let's make sure
On January 20th.
Go ahead.
On
Sorry.
January 26th, I received approval from the Connecticut State Library for the destruction of general correspondence files through December 31st, 2017. legal notices and audio tapes and recordings through December 31st, 2021, and old closed enforcement files through December 31st, 2012. So Gloria can now begin going through the Wetlands Office subject files, destroying the general correspondence that has been authorized for destruction. And I will work with her on that. No progress has been made this past month on the pre-1990 file destruction due to my commitment on completing the subdivision regulations review. The Wetlands and Conservation Office have a new locking storage cabinet. Remember, you guys all encumbered a couple $100 a little while ago for an extra couple hundred. Well, Dan and I will be filling it with our supplies. We're going to combine our supplies together and our equipment to free up file space so that there will be more room. I have no more room for the 2023 inland wetlands application files. So it's coming in at a good time. Regarding inspections, follow-up actions, I was out at 10 Stawicki Road on February 7th, and I met with the property owner, Robert Kapatz, regarding a tree clearing and a minor grading work that was performed on his property by his neighbor, Joseph Blanchard, who lives at 353 Passay Road. Mr. Kapatz's property is in a little V-shaped type of property where Stawicki Road separates from Passay Road. Some of the work, some of this work was done within 100 feet of a small pond on Mr. Kapatz's property. Mr. Kapatz would like to regrade portions of the area near Passay Road and plant grass to stabilize. Currently, there's no siltation problem, and I've sent a letter to Mr. Kapatz and with a copy to Mr. Blanchard to cease any further grading work and to contact me in the spring to review conditions to determine what, if any, further grading work could be allowed without a permit or wetlands agent approval. And I didn't have that many building permits that I signed off on. I only signed off on 4 of them, but a number of them are being held up because we don't have NDDH's approvals, and I have applications pending, so they can't get building permits while I have applications pending. Under miscellaneous, this is regarding the new FEMA flood mapping. Diane Ifkovic, DEP's state floodplain coordinator, has just informed me that Thompson and other towns in the Windham County that were included in the Quinnebog mapping projects should be getting a letter of final determination from FEMA on or about March 6, 2023, with final effective maps 6 months later, on or about September 6, 2023. Thompson will be getting a flood regulation review letter from her in March, outlining the updates needed to the ordinance, the town's ordinance, including this new map date once she knows when it will become effective. She reports that the appeal of Thompson's mapping must have received must have been resolved at FEMA's end, but that map did not change much, not enough to get the mill, that's the mill near north of Route 12, out of the floodplain. The upshot is that the flood damage prevention ordinance will have to be revised to FEMA's current standards, and the resulting changes to development in the 100-year floodplain referred to by FEMA as the special flood hazard area. There are other implications to this, and I have sent you separately, forwarded an email regarding what the implications are. It's going to make changes in how the floodplains can be developed. There are some statutory changes that will affect that too. Then we've paid off the legal notices for Cleary and Spicer Plus Inc. And I had to buy a new multi-year receipt stamp. Interestingly enough, you know, these date stamps, they give you 10 years worth of dates. And I ran out at 2022 and I had to order a new one. I thought they could just replace the rubber, you know, the rubber year. No, they have to give me a whole new stamp. So I had to order that. And that's what that costed about $60. And then of course, the locking cabinet, that I just talked about earlier. There was the total cost of that was $693.30, half of which was paid by conservation and half of it which was paid by wetlands. And that was over several years worth of encumbrances. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Marla. Commissioners, any questions for Marla regarding the budget? Agent report, rather? All right, hearing none.
Yes, I guess I have to ask one question. You're talking about the floodplain and the mill. The mill that you're mentioning is the one that's next to the library, or is it another?
Nope, it's the one next to the library. Originally, the mapping that exists now, that's the old FEMA mapping, had a floodway much narrower and 100-year floodplain, which is also narrower than what they were proposing. The proposed map, I don't know what the resolution is, but the proposed map showed the 100-year floodplain going into the building and the floodway going up basically almost to the toe of the outside structure of the building. So they significantly increased the floodway, which is an area you can't fill at all. And then they increased the 100-year floodplain. Collectively, it's all known as the special flood hazard area. It's basically the 100-year floodplain. So that affects how they can develop that building. And how that gets developed can change the way costs are done and what the options are for using it. So I'll give you an example. If you're in the 100-year floodplain and you've got residential structures, you've got residences in that building, what happens when a flood comes and the area where people are parking their cars is going to flood? People go home when it's flooding, when there's an environmental condition. Where are those people going to park those cars if that area is actually going to be subject to the flooding in a 100-year return frequency storm? These are issues that will end up having to be resolved some way, shape, or form. And it could affect how the building is developed, as well as many other reaches along. I didn't check all the reaches of the new mapping, only that area because I was concerned about North Grosvenordale Pond Dam, which has not yet been repaired.
Does that address the question, Commissioner Obert?
Well, I was just thinking that dam, which has not yet been repaired, is logically the only reason that there would be a 100-year flood below it.
Right.
No, that's not correct. The new mapping shows the floodway going all the way up to the Massachusetts line. The existing floodway on the existing maps stops at the dam. So they significantly changed the way they've looked at the hydraulics of that river.
And was the map, the FEMA map was 1980s, 1984 or something like that? 1984. Now there are remedies, because I work with flood all over the world, the United States especially, and FEMA stuff and National Flood Insurance and all that. There are mitigants and a variety of techniques that can be brought into this. So it's something that no doubt will be a challenge. But you have the map amended, revised. If you have the supporting engineering, or you can put in mitigants. So many places do that. So it sounds like there's a challenge ahead. But thank you for that update, Marla. That's really good. All right. Thank you for that report. Moving on to the next item, which is correspondence. We have Connecticut land use law for municipal land use agencies, boards, and commissions. Anything on that?
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on. All right. So I had sent you a copy electronically of the Connecticut land use law for municipal land use agencies, boards, and commissions produced by the Connecticut Bar Association. It's going to be held on Saturday, March 11th. It's a webinar, so it's all electronic. Nobody has asked to be reimbursed, so I'm assuming nobody's going to sign up for that from the Wetlands Commission. But you already have that, but I have a hard copy that came in the mail, so that was correspondence.
Oh, great. Thank you.
And then second, was the letter from the Eastern Connecticut Conservation District. You have already approved in your budget to include money for them in next fiscal year. And you have asked me to contact them to find out what it is that they do for the town, for the $1,000 that you supply support for. And I have yet to do that. I'm sorry, I've just been a little too busy with the subdivision regulations and the wetlands regulations. So I will be in touch with them, but the letter came in on February 6th, but it was dated December 1st, but you've already included it in your budget to give them $1,000, and unless it gets cut out by the Board of Selectmen, I would expect it to be in for next fiscal year.
All right, thank you for that. Any questions? Okay, hearing none, there's no Mylars to be signed.
None.
Next section is the comments by commissioners. Any commissioner comments? Moran, Gilbert? No? Morano? No?
All good here.
Oh, good. Okay. Fran and Diane. Right
No,
then.
I'm all set.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Marla, for that thorough report. It's good to see that things are moving forward, and that there's a lot of challenges ahead. So we don't look forward to the day that you won't be here to provide guidance, but no doubt we will press on. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll
All in
second.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no objections, the meeting is adjourned. Of the Inland Wetlands Commission of the Town of Thompson at 8:02 p.m. on February 14th. I'm sorry, Marla, you raising your hand?
I'm just waving goodbye.
Oh, okay.